There are moments in life when the weight of our actions becomes impossible to ignore, when the consequences of our words echo louder than the silence we've created. Your person finds themselves in such a moment now, standing at the crossroads of regret and redemption, fully aware of the profound pain they have caused you. The words they spoke, sharp and cutting, were delivered with a harshness that seemed almost calculated at the time. Their behavior was impulsive, driven by emotions they couldn't properly name or control, and the damage left in their wake has been nothing short of devastating to your heart. They wounded you deeply, striking at the very core of your trust and leaving you questioning whether you could ever open yourself to them again. The scars they created were not just surface level. They cut into the foundation of what you once believed was unshakable between you. Now, as time has passed and clarity has emerged from the fog of their pride, they can see with painful precision exactly how unfair and cruel they were to you. This awareness doesn't come with excuses or justifications anymore. It comes with raw, honest acknowledgement of the truth they tried so hard to avoid. At the time when they hurt you, they wrapped their behavior in layers of logic and reasoning. They told themselves stories that made their emotional distance seem justified, even necessary. They built arguments in their mind that protected their ego while simultaneously pushing you further and further away. Pride became their shield, and intellectualization became their weapon of choice. They chose to think rather than feel, to analyze rather than connect, to protect themselves rather than nurture what you were offering them so freely. In doing so, they constructed an invisible wall between your hearts, brick by brick, until the beautiful intimacy you once shared was buried behind layers of coldness and detachment. But now, in the stillness of their solitude, they cannot escape the memories. They replay those moments over and over in their mind like a film they cannot stop watching. They see your face in those conversations, the way your expression shifted when their words landed like stones. They remember the exact moment when the light in your eyes dimmed, when you began to pull away, when you started protecting yourself from the very person who should have been your safe harbor. These images haunt them now because they finally understand what they were too blind or too proud to see before. Their inability to express love properly, their resistance to vulnerability, their preference for cold logic over warm emotion, all of these things created a chasm that destroyed the precious bond you had worked so hard to build together. The truth they now face is stark and unforgiving. Their emotional coldness, their tendency to retreat into their head rather than speak from their heart, their fear of showing the tender parts of themselves, these patterns of behavior systematically dismantled what was once beautiful and whole between you. The connection you shared, something rare and genuine, was eroded not by any single catastrophic event, but by 1,000 small choices to close off rather than open up, to defend rather than embrace, to think rather than feel. Time and reflection have become their teachers now, harsh but necessary instructors in the lessons of love and loss. With each passing day, the full weight of their mistakes settles more heavily upon their shoulders. The fog of denial has lifted completely, and they can no longer hide from the reality of how their words and actions impacted you. They are no longer blind to the truth. They see clearly now, perhaps for the first time, the full extent of the damage they caused and the incredible patience you showed them even as they continued to hurt you. What they miss most profoundly is not just your presence, but the quality of what you brought into their life. They long for the warmth you radiated, the effortless way you understood them even when they struggled to understand themselves. They ache for the emotional safety you created, a space where they could have been vulnerable if only they had been brave enough to let down their guard. You gave them these gifts so naturally, without demand or condition, and they took every bit of it for granted. They failed to see the treasure they held in their hands until their grip loosened and it began to slip away. A deep and gnawing remorse has taken root within them now. It's a feeling that wakes them in the middle of the night and follows them through their days. There is an aching awareness that permeates their consciousness, a constant reminder that they took you for granted in ways both large and small. When they had your love, when it was freely given and abundantly present, they failed to appreciate its depth, its rarity, its extraordinary value. They treated something precious as if it would always be there, as if your patience was infinite and your heart unbreakable. They know now how wrong they were. Through this painful awakening, they have come to understand fundamental truths about love that they somehow missed before. Love is not meant to be dissected and analyzed like a problem to be solved. It cannot be controlled through logic or managed through emotional distance. Love is meant to be felt with every fiber of your being, nurtured with conscious attention and care, and respected as the sacred gift that it is. They see clearly now that their rigid way of thinking, their insistence on maintaining control, and their deep-seated fear of emotional vulnerability were the primary architects of this connection's downfall. These realizations have sparked something new within them, a genuine desire to make amends that goes far beyond guilt or obligation. They want to reach out to you and initiate a conversation that is fundamentally different from anything that came before. Not a conversation filled with awkward silences where neither of you knows what to say, not an exchange of superficial pleasantries that barely scratch the surface of what needs to be addressed. They want to engage with you in honest dialogue where both hearts can truly be heard, where vulnerability is welcomed rather than feared, where real healing can begin to take place. This time, their intentions are pure and uncomplicated. They are not approaching you from a place of confusion or uncertainty about what they want. The fog has lifted, and they can see their truth with crystal clarity. They want you. They want what you had and what you could have again. In their heart, a knowing has settled that you are their perfect match, the person who understands the landscape of their soul better than anyone else ever could or ever will. You showed them what real emotional depth looks like, what it means to love without walls and barriers. And in all their searching, in all their looking around at what else might be available, they have found nothing that even remotely compares to what you offered them. They are not seeking reconciliation simply because they feel guilty, though the guilt is real and heavy. They are not reaching out because they are lonely, though the loneliness cuts deep. Their desire to rebuild with you comes from a genuine place of recognition. They recognize that you are irreplaceable. They recognize that what you shared touched something essential in their being. They recognize that moving forward without you means accepting a life that will always feel incomplete. What they need from you now, what they hope you might be willing to give, is your support through this difficult process of rebuilding. They need your understanding as they try to articulate feelings they have spent so long suppressing. They need your willingness to listen, even though they know they have not earned the right to ask for your attention. Together, they believe, you can start fresh. Not by pretending the past didn't happen, but by acknowledging it fully and choosing to write a new chapter together. They know this journey will not be easy. They understand they cannot simply walk back into your heart as if nothing happened. Trust, once broken, requires painstaking effort to restore. Faith, once shattered, does not magically reassemble itself overnight. But they are ready to do the work, whatever that work might entail. They are prepared to face the difficult conversations, to sit with the discomfort of their own mistakes, to hear how deeply they hurt you without becoming defensive or making excuses. They long to talk about everything that was left unsaid during your time together. All those moments when words were needed but pride kept them silent, when apologies should have been offered but stubbornness prevailed, when expressions of love should have flowed freely but fear held them back. They want to address the wounds that were ignored, the hurts that were minimized, the pain that was never properly acknowledged. They want to bring closure to moments that ended abruptly and painfully, conversations that were left hanging in the air, conflicts that were never truly resolved. There is so much they have been holding inside, feelings they were too proud to admit, fears they were too scared to name, vulnerabilities they were too confused to share. All of it has been building up within them like pressure behind a dam, and they are finally ready to let it flow. They want to pour out every unspoken feeling, every regret, every moment of longing they have experienced since you began to pull away. They want you to know, truly know, what has been happening in their heart even if their actions failed to show it. Even though you may appear distant now, even though you have built walls of your own to protect yourself from further harm, they can feel that your heart still remembers them. They sense it in ways that logic cannot explain. They believe that you might be acting cold as a defense mechanism, as a way to shield yourself from the possibility of being hurt again by the same person who already wounded you so deeply. But beneath that protective surface, they feel certain there is still an emotional connection that has not completely severed. They know, because they lived it and felt it, that you once cared for them deeply. Your love was not shallow or temporary. It was real, profound, and transformative. And that kind of love, the kind that touches the soul and changes who you are, does not simply vanish overnight. It may go dormant, it may hide beneath layers of hurt and disappointment, but it does not disappear completely. This knowledge gives them a glimmer of hope when everything else feels dark and uncertain. It motivates them to take the risk of stepping forward despite their fear of rejection or your judgment of their past behavior. The truth they need you to know, the truth they have carried for longer than they can express, is that they genuinely care for you more deeply than they have ever been able to articulate. This is something they have wanted to tell you for what feels like an eternity, but they did not know how to form the words. They were afraid that whatever they said would not be enough to convey the depth of their feeling. They feared that you would not believe them after everything that happened, that their words would ring hollow against the backdrop of their hurtful actions. But they have come to realize that silence only prolongs the pain for both of you. Remaining quiet, staying disconnected, pretending that the feelings do not exist, none of this makes anything better. It only extends the suffering. They are ready now to express their feelings honestly and openly, even if it means revealing parts of themselves they have kept carefully hidden. They are prepared to show vulnerability, to admit their fears and insecurities, to acknowledge the ways in which they were immature or emotionally unavailable. Your person wants to present themselves to you now as someone who has evolved, someone who has learned from their mistakes and is genuinely ready to handle love with the care and respect it deserves. They no longer want to come to you with mixed signals that leave you confused and uncertain about where you stand. They are done with half-hearted promises that sound good but lack follow-through. They have no interest in offering breadcrumbs of affection, just enough to keep the connection alive but never enough to make you feel secure and valued. They understand now that you have outgrown that version of them, the person who gave partially but never fully, who showed up inconsistently, who kept one foot out the door while asking you to remain all in. Through this painful process of reflection and growth, they have come to see that love requires consistency in both word and action. It demands emotional effort, not just when it is convenient but especially when it is difficult. It requires accountability, the willingness to own their mistakes rather than deflect or minimize them. These are not just abstract concepts to them anymore. They are commitments they are ready to make to you and to themselves. They are determined to show you that they have changed, not through grand romantic gestures that flash brightly but fade quickly, not through empty apologies that sound rehearsed and insincere. They want to demonstrate their growth through actions that align consistently with their words, through showing up day after day with patience and genuine effort, through proving over time that they can be the partner you have always deserved but never quite received from them. In their quietest moments, they allow themselves to dream of what reconciliation might look like. They imagine being able to laugh with you again without the weight of past hurts hanging between you. They envision having deep conversations where openness replaces guardedness, where vulnerability is met with understanding rather than judgment, where fear and tension no longer cloud the connection. They want to build something new with you, a relationship grounded in honesty, mutual respect, and authentic emotional presence. Still, they are not naive about the challenges ahead. They understand completely that your heart carries scars from what happened between you. Those wounds are real and they run deep. Forgiveness is not something that can be demanded or rushed. It does not come instantly, no matter how sincere the apology or how genuine the remorse. Trust must be rebuilt slowly, carefully, through consistent demonstration rather than verbal promises. But despite understanding all these challenges, despite knowing how difficult this path will be, they are willing to try. They are willing to walk through the discomfort, to face their own shame and regret, to give you all the time and space you need to heal. They are willing because they believe with every fiber of their being that you are worth it. They have realized through this painful separation that no amount of logic or pride can fill the emptiness they feel without you in their life. All their rationalizations, all their attempts to distract themselves, all their efforts to move on, none of it works because nothing can replace what you brought to their existence. They have come to see that emotional connection, once truly lost, cannot be replaced by reason or by keeping busy or by pretending not to care. The void remains, constant and aching. It can only be healed through vulnerability, through courage, through choosing love even when it is terrifying to do so. In their eyes, you are not just someone from their past, a chapter that has closed. You are the one person who truly touched their soul in ways no one else ever has. They see your strength in how you carried yourself even when they were treating you poorly. They see your grace in how you tried to make things work even when they were not meeting you halfway. They see your capacity to love deeply, authentically, without games or manipulation. All of this humbles them and inspires them in equal measure. What they want now is to stand beside you as an equal, not as someone you have to carry or fix or teach how to love. They want to offer you emotional security, the knowing that they are reliable and present. They want to provide understanding, the kind that comes from truly listening and caring about your inner world. They want to give you commitment, unwavering and consistent, so you never have to question where you stand or whether they will disappear when things get challenging. They no longer want to live in the prison of regret, replaying their mistakes endlessly without taking action to correct them. They no longer want fear to control their heart, keeping them isolated and alone because they are too scared to be vulnerable. This time, they want to approach everything differently. They want to create a new chapter with you, one that is built on mutual healing rather than old wounds, on trust that is earned rather than assumed, on emotional growth that is demonstrated through changed behavior rather than empty promises. The time you have spent apart, as painful as it has been, has served a purpose they are only now beginning to fully understand. This separation has been their teacher, forcing them to confront truths about themselves they would have otherwise continued to avoid. Every day without you has been a reminder of what truly matters, a lesson in what happens when pride overshadows love, when fear prevents connection, when the ego protects itself at the expense of the heart. They sit now in contemplation, wrestling with questions they can no longer ignore. What do they do from here? Where do they go? How do they begin to bridge the distance that has grown between you? The silence around them feels heavy, filled with the echoes of memories they cannot escape. They believed in you, in themselves, in what you could have been together. They held on to hope for so long that the love you shared was strong enough to withstand any storm, that it could survive the mistakes and the hurt and the time apart. But now, after everything you have both endured, after this year of hell and pain, after 365 days of waking up with the same ache in their chest and the same longing that refuses to fade, they must acknowledge a difficult truth. It has not gotten easier. Not even a little bit. Time has not healed these wounds the way people promised it would. Distance has not made the heart forget. If anything, the absence has made everything more clear, more sharp, more painfully present. They find themselves going through your photos over and over again, as if by looking at them long enough they could somehow step back into those captured moments. They scroll through old conversations, rereading words that once made them smile, messages that now make their heart ache with longing so intense it is almost physical. They wish desperately that they could bring those moments back, resurrect the laughter and the closeness and the feeling of being seen and understood completely by another human being. What they want more than anything is for things to be normal between you again, to talk without pain or tension, to look at each other without the weight of everything that went wrong hanging between you like a curtain. Instead, you are both hurting, both alone, both trying to make sense of the distance that has grown between you. They want to be wrapped up again in the fire of your love, to feel that intensity and warmth and passion that used to burn so brightly it seemed like it could light up the entire world.